Live from SABC headquarters in Auckland Park, Johannesburg. Welcome to this week's final edition of The Watchdog. My name is Vuyo Mvoko. On the show tonight, President Cyril Ramaphosa finally responds to the 31 questions of the public protector. The president's suspension of public protector Busiwe Mkhwebane, meanwhile, heads back to the courts. Weeks to go before the 10th anniversary of the Marikana massacre, activists and civil society organizations take stock. And the Johannesburg municipality gets tough with the city's informal traders. But how is the city helping them? All that coming up in tonight's episode of The Watchdog, which starts now. President Cyril Ramaphosa has finally sent his responses to the 31 questions that were sent to him by the Office of the Public Protector. This is regarding the Phalaphala farm robbery. It follows a subpoena threat by acting public protector Koleka Galega. Ramaphosa was expected to comply with the request by Monday, having missed an earlier deadline in June, but failed to do so. Presidential spokesperson Vincent Magwenya is adamant it was unnecessary to attempt to force a response from the president, as he was always willing to comply but had been delayed by his busy schedule.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has finally sent his answers to the Office of the Public Protector after the office threatened to invoke its powers of subpoena for failing to meet the deadline. Ramaphosa missed the first deadline in June to respond to questions and further requested another extension to the 22nd of July. His office has cited the delays to a busy work schedule.
The threat of the subpoena was unnecessary in our view because the President's legal team was in communication with the Office of the Public Protector. There was an attempt for a meeting to explain the reasoning behind the request for the extension. That meeting unfortunately did not occur. However, I can tell you now that the responses to the Public Protector have been delivered and have been received by the Office of the Public Protector.
Magwenya also reiterated that President Cyril Ramaphosa has no intention of testifying at the parliamentary inquiry into suspended public protector Busiwe Mkhwebane's fitness to hold office currently underway. Some parliamentarians, as well as Mkhwebane's legal counsel, have called on Ramaphosa to bear witness regarding the basis of his decision to suspend Mkhwebane.
As things stand, we don't see why the president will need to appear. He did not make any allegations against Advocate Mkhwebane. All he did was to fulfill his side of the constitutional obligations, but we will be advised by the committee when that time comes.
Magwenya further responded to former President Thabo Mbeki's criticism of the government in tackling high levels of unemployment, poverty and inequality. Mbeki says Ramaphosa and his cabinet do not have a plan 100 days after promising a social compact to deal with the current crisis facing many South Africans. The elderly statesman made the remarks on Thursday at the National Memorial Service for the late ANC Deputy Secretary General Jesse Duarte.
President Ramaphosa will always welcome criticism, advice from former President Mbeki or any other elder in our country. With respect to the social compact, yes, there have been some delays. However, we will respectfully submit that it is not true that nothing has been done, but we will admit that there have been some delays.
Meanwhile, included in the 31 questions Ramaphosa is required to answer by the public protector is whether he had declared his financial interests related to the Phalaphala farm to Parliament as required by the Code of Ethics. These issues will continue to plague the president until such a time where law enforcement agencies that are investigating the Phalaphala saga conclude their work. Natasha Piri, SABC News, Pretoria.
Natasha Piri there. They were covering, of course, that state visit, but when they got an opportunity to ask the presidential spokesperson about this matter, the story that broke today, they, of course, did exactly that. Now, Mpumelelo Zigalala is from Zigalala Attorneys and is going to help us make sense of some of the things that came out of that particular, well, impromptu briefing, as it were. Mpumelelo, thanks very much for your time. I don't know what you make of the presidential spokesperson's there was no need really for a threat of a subpoena. He was going to comply anyway.
I don't buy it. At the end of the day, if the subpoena or the threat of the subpoena was not issued, we'll be sitting today with no response from the president. Let's remember, the public protector is under extreme timelines. There's a complainant or there's a complaint that has been made. There's an investigation which is taking place and it needs answers. Most importantly, these particular answers must come from the highest office of the land, which is the office of the president. Now, in order for you to show respect to the particular office as the president, you need to comply at all times. You were given an extension one and you didn't comply after you've requested that extension. Why aren't you complying the second time? We are all busy in all our schedules. But at the end of the day, when the law is the law, you need to answer. So you can't hide with that I've been busy, I hadn't had time to answer you on this particular one. But for me, I would then say the truth is the truth. So whatever that you've said to the law enforcement agency is something that you can again answer in this particular session. Just one afternoon, I think all of those 21 questions would have been answered.
And for me, I mean, the delay was due to, as you've just said, the president's busy schedule. I mean, you know, when you think about that, I mean, what could be, you know, taking up the president's time, what could be more important, you know, than responding to a Chapter 9 institution, and not just any Chapter 9 institution. This is the public protector, you know, and the reason there's an inquiry right now, it's because some feel that, you know, the public protector, you know, wasn't doing what she is supposed to do, which then underscores the importance of that office. I don't know what you made of that.
I think it then shows a bit of a lack of respect for the office. Let alone the individuals that are there. As the president, there are certain rules and obligations in which you are supposed to subscribe to. And if you don't follow those rules and prescripts, it simply means that you do not recognize this particular institution as an important accountability type of instrument that you need to account to and you need to respond to when being called to do so. Now, at the end of the day, all that you are required to do as the president is to sit down one afternoon and say, let me apply my mind to this particular question. I'm going to speak the truth and nothing but the truth. Let me respond so that at the end of the day, you are able to do your work efficiently. As stated earlier, there are timelines which are attached to this type of matters. It's not a free-for-all type of situation where you will answer when you have time. And the inverse question would be, when is the president not going to be busy? There will never be a period in his life while he's still the president of South Africa where we will say he has free time. So at the end of the day, is giving the respect which is required to the office, provide the reasons which are required by the office, and then it'll be fine. But the second one is the brand in which the brand of the president in which you want to show South Africans that you are a president that respects the rule of law, you're a president that responds when is called upon to do so. Now, if you are going to ignore or be seen to be ignoring certain things, what type of an example are you setting for the ordinary man on the streets if you are going to be the first one who's not going to respond to what the public protector has asked of?
And it shouldn't matter who that public protector is or what they may have done or what they are being accused of, which in part, I mean, is being, you know, subject of that whole inquiry. Because remember, these questions were sent by the suspended, I mean, by the public protector before, Advocate Nkwebane, before she was suspended. But that shouldn't matter.
Not at all. It's all within the respecting the office rather than the individual. Yes, the individual must be respected, but the office is respected more. And it's a question of saying, I want to show South Africans that I have nothing to hide in terms of this matter. So I'm going to respond as quickly as possible. And those particular answers are going to exonerate me at the end of the day. So if you do not want a perception that seems as if you've got something to hide, then all that you need to do is to respond quickly and efficiently. In fact, what the public protector was doing was simply complying with the Public Protector's Act and the rules, in terms of saying, if you don't respond to what I have to say, just know that at the end of the day, I'm going to invoke this particular section. I'm going to invoke these particular rules. They were created and legislated for a reason. And the reason was that there would be certain instances where those in power are not going to listen to my office, in which you, Mr. President, have done so today. So let me use the powers that I've been given by the Constitution, Public Protector's Act and the rules to make sure that I get the answers which I'm looking for.
Speaking of Advocate Mkhwebane, I mean, her legal counsel has called on the president to be a witness, regarding the basis of his decision to suspend her. The presidential spokesperson saying, well, he did not make a complaint against the public protector, so why should he testify? Is that a valid reason?
It is a valid reason, even though I would have added another one in terms of saying at the end of the day, the person who's going to press the green button or send the last message to the suspended public protector in terms of saying you are fired is the president himself. Now, you don't want to embroil in the decision-making process of whether the suspended public protector is guilty or not. You want to absolve yourself from that particular decision. At the end of the day, it should be made by you. So if you go into that particular sitting, you've already adopted a certain view without having applied your mind at the end of the process as it has been prescribed by the Constitution. Our Constitution is very clear. It simply says the process where it starts, the Section 194 committee. From there, we move on to the National Assembly. From the National Assembly, we then move to the president. Now, if the president is involved within the first stage, what sort of discretion is he going to apply when he has already adopted a certain stance pertaining to what he wants to happen to the suspended public protector? So the president was correct in terms of saying, I'm not going to be part of these proceedings. I'm not the complainant, but at the end of the day, I'm a de facto arbiter or person who is going to be the presiding officer at the end of the day and decide whether I want to keep you or not, based on the recommendations which I'll get from the National Assembly. Anyways, I'm the one who has suspended you. The reason for my suspension is that I felt that you are going to be embroiled in certain things pertaining to the office. I felt that your involvement in this particular inquiry is going to change this particular office and the brand and the respect of this office. So I don't want you to be part of it. So if I then come back and give evidence pertaining to that, once I sit in that witness box, there are no questions which are going to be sacrosanct or that I can't be asked. I don't want to put myself in a position in which I'll be accused of being conflicted. So the best thing to do is to stay away and only make my decision at the end as prescribed by the Constitution.
Well, of course, we know that the matter is going back to, is back in the courts next week, where Advocate Mkhwebane is challenging the suspension, saying it's unconstitutional, irrational, and invalid.
On that application, there are two arms in which you must approach it in. The first arm is that, let's remember that the suspended public protector brought this matter under agency. So she's saying, the courts must forget all the court roles that are there. They must look into this matter as quickly as possible so that they're able to deal with it. The problem with that is that we still have to deal with agents and ensure the court that we have a right that must be protected. It's a matter of life and death. There's no other alternative that is there other than for the relief to be granted in a manner in which we are requesting. I don't see the public protector overcoming that particular challenge or the first stage of agency before we even get to the merits. Now, if you move to the merits now, the president is simply saying in his response papers, I have the power to suspend you. It says that. And what you haven't done, or maybe what you could have assisted the public protectors to then say, at the end of the day, please provide reasons of why you are suspending me. I understand where you're coming from with your letter, but I want to see the reasons that you have looked at the end of the day. If those reasons are not reasonable enough, then you haven't taken a decision based on reasonableness, based on the independence. Your mind was filled with certain things which are incorrect, facts which are incorrect, and yet you've been provided with the correct facts. You wouldn't have arrived at this decision of suspending. The public protector has not done that. So the chances of her being successful in this application, from my side, I think they are very slim.
So I carry you on the agency matter. Let's just say, and this is hypothetical, that she manages to overcome that first hurdle on the agency, and then this thing gets to be had. Because I had a glance of the papers where the president is arguing that he's actually vested with the requisite power to suspend her, and he did so because he was obliged to, pursue his constitutional duty. You act on your constitutional duty based on the reasons in which that have been presented to you. Now, that's based on a number of facts that are there that you need to apply your mind to. The missing factor or the missing point in this whole process is the mere fact that the public protector has not said to the president, Mr. President, please provide me with reasons of why you are suspending me. What exactly did you look at, and what factors did you look at, and what exactly are you trying to protect with my suspension? So I need to know the methodology or the science behind you taking this particular decision, because I want to test the rationality of that particular decision. If you haven't asked that, you are going to court limping because you don't know as to what was the correct decision or the elements that were looked at by the president before the president took the decision of saying that I'm going to suspend you, which is why the president is coming out strong in those papers and saying, I have the power to do so. You haven't asked for reasons of why I've taken that power to do so, so I'm not going to provide you those reasons. But at the end of the day, I want to emphasize the fact that if you look at the Constitution, it says that the president may. And I was exercising that may part in my discretion, which is why you are suspended. Unless, or the only way in which you could win, if you convince the court that I do not have the power to suspend you. And in this case, the president, the powers to suspend the public protector lies with the president. Well, I hope I've read these papers correctly. He seems to also suggest that the public protector attempted to do this and failed. And there's nothing new now that's going to come. She's trying to have a bite at the proverbial cherry, to steal a little phrase from the papers.
I think that is based on the first application that the Shed made, I think, against the Speaker of the National Assembly. But at the end of the day, that does not, each matter must be looked at within its own merit. And in this case, we're simply assessing the action of the president and saying, Mr. President, do you have power to suspend the public protector? And the answer to that is yes. Have you been asked or requested to provide reasons why you did so? The answer is no. So at the end of the day, the court will only adjudicate based on what it has. It can't read into the papers what maybe the applicant in this case, who is a suspended public protector, was trying to do. It simply has to adjudicate on what it is there. So the president is just reminding the court and saying, I'm just muddying the waters here and there, but I want to alert the court that this matter has been ventilated in our courts, and this particular applicant was not successful. So have that in mind when you're considering this case. But in this case, the court will have to come back and say, I do not care what happened previously. All that I'm interested in now is the papers which are in front of me, and those say, this is what has happened. I'm going to judge this particular matter based on agency and also on the merits. And on both, I don't think that the public protector is going to be successful.
Mpumelelo, let's leave it there for tonight, and thank you for your time and for your insights. Mpumelelo Zikalala from Zikalala Attorneys. Up next, with the 10th anniversary of the Marikana massacre fast approaching, activists and civil society organizations take stock. Activists and civil society organizations are taking stock of progress or lack of in dealing with all the problems that were thrown up by the Marikana massacre. The Benchmarks Foundation, which has been doing extensive work over the years to keep tabs on the situation, also held a public lecture in Rustenburg titled 10 Years of Marikana, Where to? I'm joined on the line by Eric Mugua from the Benchmarks Foundation. Cecilia Manyane is the chairperson of the Mining Host Communities in Crisis Network. Good evening to both of you, and thank you so much for your time.
Good evening, Vuyo, and good evening to your viewers. Thank you for having us.
Yes. Let me start with you, Eric, if I may. You held this lecture. You then brought in activists, academics, and other interested party. What exactly did you want, were you trying to do?
Thank you very much. Vuyo, it is very clear that in Marikana, as we speak now, things have not changed. The CEO are still earning or making a lot of money. There is continuing to be a mess, and the workers are still living in squalors, and communities continue to be excluded. The issue why we had that lecture or the discussion is to highlight all those issues that 10 years on, the company that have taken on Sibanye Stillwater has been speaking about intentions and has been obsessed about changing the narrative rather than dealing with issues on the ground. So we have seen this pattern, a pattern of wanting to be on the media spectacles as if there is something happening on the ground when there is little that is really happening on the ground. This is happening at the back door where Sibanye itself has reported an increase in profit of 13%. And, you know, the Marikana people in our first seminar have raised grievances that there is an increase in crime in the area. The area of Nganeng have no access to running water. There is still no access to electricity. This is the area close to the Kopi where everything happens in Marikana. And we are aware that Sibanye as a company has been running campaigns. They have this campaign they call Marikana Renewal, where they have been taking media around, wanting to show them their progress. And this is a staged type of, it's however staged in a sense that they show the points where they have done little at, and they show the points where they want to impress the media. And the main aim here, it's not to deliver, but as I said, is to change the narrative. The obsession of changing the narrative has nothing to do with material change on the ground that they are engaged on. So we as the Benchmarks Foundation have observed that, and we are running series of engagement. On the 10th of August, we will be going on to Marikana, and we will be engaging with the communities. They will be leading us on a tour. They will be showing us the genuine work that Marikana Lonmin is saying it has done. So we are very much concerned on that. You know, we feel that where mining is operating, at least the communities there need to be developed. At least the communities there need to benefit out of the proceeds of platinum, proceeds of the minerals that is being extracted. And that is our case, Vuyo, on that.
Cecilia, from your vantage point?
I even don't know where to start. 10 years later. Is it okay, my language? Years later, we as women, we are still suffering. The men that were killed at 12, the women who are behind with children today, they don't know what to tell children, because the last time they saw them was when they got to that bike asking for 1,000 rand. Our economy is owned by Europeans. There's nothing that the community is benefiting. There's inequality. There's huge gap between the rich and the poor. The poverty here in Marigal. Women are raising children alone. Youth, too much youth, unemployment. Youth are not working. And after the killing of those men, no one has taken responsibility up until now. The trauma, the depression, the unanswered questions. Mines are abusing us environmentally, physically, and socially. As I'm speaking right now, I'm one of the victims that was beaten by security guards of Carissa Minerals. As an environmental activist, we were forced to evacuate our houses so that the mine can last. Just imagine the humiliation. Get out of your house, the mine must blast, and you come back in that dusty house, chemicals in that house. We have children. The place that I'm staying in at Madikoko, it's not a place where a human being can live at. But there is a mine just next to me. 10 meters away from me, there's a fence. Thing is being done. Is it because we are poor? Or is it because we are black? We are not taken as human beings. That is why the mines keep on doing this to us, because even the law is not protecting us. Sitting here with my children in check, no one is caring for us. What development? What are we supposed to do?
Okay. Eric, if I may, I remember, from the last year's report, your organization found that there is very little progress in, for example, bringing those who were implicated in the killing of those 34 miners. What is the situation with regard to that from what you know?
Well, what you know that is that the case is with the NPA, and we are also calling that the NPA must speed up. The police who were involved, some of the police who were involved in this killing, some of them are getting new jobs in securities in the mining industry, and that's quite a problem. And the case has evaporated from the public space, surely to make it disappear. So we really do not have more details on how far is the state and NPA is with this case of prosecuting mainly those who shot the 34 miners. And of course, this was televised. It could not have taken 10 years to find the perpetrators when they were clearly on camera. So we are really worried that the NPA is not acting with speed. However, there are other accusers who were shot and who are really facing a criminal case in the courts that we've been hearing about. They are ordinary mine workers. So you see how the NPA has been very selective in their own prosecution. So we really would want to urge that the NPA should really act with speed and identify those who were involved as police in shooting the 34 miners.
And then that's with regard to, the prosecution of those implicated. Not much movement there, as you say. Has there been movement on the part of the company with regard to, for example, those services, whether it was counseling services for widows and orphans, whether it was the Memorial Park? Has Sibanye Stillwater delivered on those?
Well, the Sibanye has been making intentional signs to build Memorial Park, but of course, as I have said, Vuyo, that the aim here, Sibanye is obsessed about changing the narrative, meaning that they are making intentions, but there are no actions, especially with regard to the issue on Memorial Park. And with regard to the widows, many things are not in the public yet, and it's very difficult to really get hold of the stories of the widows. I suppose that perhaps AMCU would be a relevant stakeholder to be speaking on the conditions of the widows. But with regard to general counseling, we are not aware if the Sibanye itself, because not only were the widows and the families traumatized, you had most of the kids who were standbys who had witnessed the massacre itself. The clinics in the Marikana need to have been equipped with social workers who any of the residents in Marikana should be able to access. We really do not have that. I mean, it is a norm that when mining operates and create trauma into the people, they do not necessarily provide these services, psychological services, to our people, because there is a stereotype that Black people would not utilize such services. We are urging that after 10 years, there are still some who have witnessed these scenes. They might not be direct people who have direct contact with the people who died, but they might be children who were there, because no one focuses much on children. And women in general, who at the time after the massacres, the police were running riots around the area. They were the ones who were remaining there, who had seen all these things. So they need really to be afforded an opportunity. The psychological services need to be availed. And such things have never been provided. So that's one thing. So we think that Sibanye should look into that they must do away with the stereotype that is prevalent to say Black people will not utilize such services. In the clinics close to Nkane, where all these things happen, you need to find such services for the people.
But I mean, on the ground, how strong would you say? How strong are the community structures, Eric? Because some of these things also require the cooperation or working together with, other stakeholders, like the municipality, for example. When I look at the long list of things that have been agreed to, or that whether it's Sibanye promised to do, the needs of the community, some of the things you have sort of just spoken about, you can see that there's it's not something a Sibanye Stillwater would do voluntarily, so you need the pressure of the community. But also, I mean, you need the municipality to come on board. If you're talking about piped water, if you're talking about tarred roads, even the agricultural projects that have also been mentioned. What I'm trying to get is, have people on the ground learned that there won't be movement? I mean, we are in the 10th year now. There hasn't been any movement. Maybe we should change tactics. Maybe we should work differently. How organized are the structures on the ground?
Well, there are. I mean, communities at most they are organized in their own different ways, and of course, communities, as we know, they are not homogeneous, and of course, you have other dividing mechanisms that have been utilized because companies. We should not be naive. Companies, when they operate in an area, they utilize strategies. They do not have a heart or feelings as myself and you. What they do, they utilize what we call strategy. And those are thoughts, some mental thoughts. They had nothing to do with feelings, but they had to do with how do we move forward? How do we break through? How do we continue to mine, even under such conditions? And we cannot assume that communities are in actual fact going to be are going to be people who in essence agree in one thing, because people are diverse in their nature, and mining has always been existing in where people do not necessarily agree, but they thrive. I'm telling you, Sibanye has made profit in the past years. In this past year, they have made profit. And they have made profit even under these conditions. So there is no excuse and to say that the communities are not necessarily cooperative or not working to. Communities are not homogeneous in their nature, but if a business is able to set up in such a state, then something can be done. Progress can be made in such a state. We can't be blaming conditions of the community because the company now is unable to provide what they have promised. But their profit margins, as they target, even they supersede what they have expected. I mean, the profits. I mean, we are talking about the 13% in their increase this year. The profits that they put sometimes, or they to use a term, that they speculate in a year, sometimes they do surpass them.
Okay.
In such conditions, of the community. So we really cannot blame the conditions for the company not to be providing what they have really promised. We can't. They are able to deliver on profits whilst they are operating in such conditions. So that's really our issue.
Okay. Cecilia, I mean, I'm hoping that your line is holding this time around. You know what Eric has described. I mean, we may well be talking about Marikana now, ahead of the 10th anniversary. But the situation he has just described, the attitudes of the mining companies, the promises that they make but never get to deliver on. This is something all mining communities are experiencing across the country, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
What other, communities? What other examples can you think of communities that are either left behind or betrayed even by the mining companies that are making a lot of money in those communities, get to make promises but never get to deliver on them?
Yes, mines make promises to the community. And talking about Marikana, I stay at Adikhoba, where there are lots of premises, but nothing is being done. So that shows that the Marikana massacre made other mines to violate our human rights, because they are not complying with their SLPs. There are SLPs which we don't know of.
Okay.
The time
that line. That line is not playing ball at all, Cecilia. We're going to have to drop you, I'm afraid. Apologies for that. We don't know where the problem is. But just coming back to you, Eric, as a final thought, on the ground, in the run-up, well, like what are the activities now as we build up to that 10th anniversary? Anything you've been able to hear or pick up as to how the community feels this 10th anniversary should be done?
I think all the anniversaries have really been focusing on people of high stature, people from high offices, and it has been an affair that is far away from the community. We are aware of that. We know how it takes place. And because they have opened a space for themselves to talk to themselves and not speaking to the community. So we ourselves are going to be returning to Marikana. And at this time, we are going to be engaging directly with the communities. We, on the 10th of August, we will be going back to Marikana. The communities have invited us to come and engage with them. And we are inviting the media to be part of this. We will be having stops in Nkaneng. We will be having stops in Maditlokwa. We will be having stops in other areas that are around Marikana and engaging clearly with the communities.
I mean, from the conversations you had today, what are some of the ideas, thoughts that came out of those conversations that which you will hopefully be taking to those communities as you engage with them over the next couple of weeks?
Well, there are ideas that, the communities now most of them are living in poverty. There are ideas that we really need to free the communities from reliance on the mining industry. That's one clear idea that is coming up, that other alternatives for the community to really find jobs and be able to utilize their land be looked into and be explored, because, there is all talks, especially with regard to the mining industry, saying in future, this is what we are going to do. There are intentions that do not necessarily tend into what they should be. So we are saying there are other alternatives that really can create jobs. The Marikana, in Marikana itself, it has always been a fertile farming land on the other side. And some of the projects that were there before, and I think Lonmin had initiated them before, had collapsed. But of course, they had collapsed in the hands of Lonmin at the time. But those were farming projects. These are the projects that are needed.
Okay, Eric? Let's leave it there for tonight. Let me thank you for your time. He is from the Benchmarks Foundation. Let me also thank Cecilia Manyana, who's the chairperson of the Mining Host Communities in Crisis Network, but unfortunately her line wasn't playing ball. To this now, the Johannesburg municipality has begun an informal traders verification process. They say seeks to restore order in the city's central business district. The aim is to restore law and order, they say, as well as create a business-friendly city. But how do informal traders themselves feel about it all? Well, Brian Palo is the secretary of the South African Informal Traders Forum. He joins us on the line. Brian, good evening. Thanks very much for your time. We're hoping to get the MMC for this conversation, but things didn't go our way. Just from where you sit as the informal traders, is this move done with all the good intentions, and is it helping you as well?
Thanks very much, Wuyo. Thanks for inviting us on your show. It's very unfortunate not to get the MMC to be part of this. Look, to answer your question, we know very well whether it is a good intention, whether it is not, we don't know. The MMC would be the right person to answer that question. But what we know and what we noticed, every law, when this operation started was broken. There's nothing that is respected. As usual, then there's no one who respects informal traders or informal sector entirely. So the MMC, shockingly, he's acting exactly like that. When he came in as an MMC, we had a meeting with him. In his introduction, he promised that he will work with us, he will do everything with us, the consultation and all that. But in this instant, just on a Tuesday, I was called at 4 o'clock in the morning, members telling me that they were told not to open. So that was very shocking because there was no communication and nothing. And there are forums that we meet with the MMC at. I don't know why he decided not to consult us. And he claims that he's simply implementing bylaws. This is not just bylaws. Bylaws, you implement them while informal traders are at their designated areas, trading, making money. And then you come and verify whatever that you want to verify. You don't shut down the business and chase people out of the street and you call it clean. That's disrespecting. Are you saying people are dirty? Is City of Johannesburg dirty because people are on the street making money? No. That's exactly what it's, I compare this to the Operation Clean Sweep back in 2013. That's exactly what the former mayor did, and they thought that they are cleaning the city. I know most people, they will be excited because they see empty streets, and then when streets are empty, they think that that is clean. I definitely don't agree with that.
Have you organized yourselves to perhaps, approach the municipality and raise your concerns?
Well, look, we tried. We tried to do our best, talking to the MMC himself. He's very arrogant, I can say that. In the meeting that we attended, the last meeting that we had with him, it was on Wednesday afternoon. He came into that meeting, he told us very well, this is his meeting, he's here to tell us what is going to happen, and he believes that the Lord favors him. Whatever that we can do, there's nothing that is going to change him. Actually, we tried to tell him what's supposed to happen. We believe the MMC is just a politician. There is administration that he works with. Those are the people that we've been working with even before, prior the approval of the informal trading policy. The MMC is claiming that he's implementing that policy. We participated in that even before he came in. We did submissions. We know what the policy says. The policy doesn't encourage his action. Actually, he's acting out of law. So we had no choice. We instructed our lawyers to write letters to the MMC himself, the mayor, and the city manager, so that we can get clarity. Is this the action of the City of Johannesburg, or is it specifically the action of Action SA? Because we understand the MMC, after his tour with his political party, Regalia and Comrades, 2 weeks back, he had a video that was circulating on social media saying that he's going to attend to that. So we don't know whether he's acting as an MMC or he acts as a member of Action SA. As much as he alluded that in some of our meetings with him that he was voted in or they were voted in by voters to simply implement their policies that they promised when they were campaigning. So we understand very well Action SA is one of those xenophobic organization, if I may put it in a blunt way. They're saying they don't want foreign nationals. And exactly it shows that because the street that is targeted and the street that we are told that there is Operation Buyam Teto, it's strictly dominated by foreign nationals.
Okay, we'll see what comes out of it. We'll follow up with you with regard to the letter that you've written to them and the interactions between the city and your lawyers. We do hope, we've been promised that the MMC will come on Monday, but we'll also keep you posted on that one. To this now, let me thank, in fact, Brian, the Secretary of the South African Informal Traders Forum, for agreeing to speak to us. Pity we couldn't have the MMC as well. To this now, President Cyril Ramaphosa took time out from his meeting with Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara to wish Banyana well ahead of tomorrow's final against Morocco. He said he'll be at the airport when they return on Tuesday, and he then wants to see the Women's Africa Cup of Nations trophy. We leave you with that. Have a good night and a great weekend until we talk again on Monday.
We are here and want to applaud you and to wish you the very best tomorrow as you play in the final. You are making South Africa very, very proud. Even President Ouattara, as he's visiting South Africa, we've made him South African for this moment so that he can also wish you the very, very best. He is very impressed with the progress that you have made. And with this call, we want to strengthen your hand, your boots, and your effort to go out and win that cup for South Africa. As our women team, you are, really, really soaring. You are going to great heights, and it is why we call you Banyana Banyana. President Ouattara, Banyana means the girls. These are our real super girls from South Africa. You are the super girls of our country.